I'll never forget the time I was living in Spain, and it was a Sunday afternoon. It was around 3:30 in the afternoon. And usually Sundays for me back then, it was 2023, early 2023. I would spend the morning learning. I would spend the morning exploring new ideas, new concepts, and just different courses I had invested in, just to spend a couple of hours going through them. And I remember going through this course that was based around finding your purpose, because at the time I was working a lot. I was burnt out from working. I was working like 12-hour days. All my life revolved around was work. I felt that if I just worked long enough and hard enough, I would eventually get to where I want to be. Now, that worked until it didn't. And it got to a point where I just felt like I was working for no reason. I felt like I was working really hard for no reason. And I remember going through this video from this guy, and he said, "Your pain is your greatest purpose." That's all he said. And then the video continued on, but I just paused it right there, and I sat there. I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I was like, what is my greatest pain? I was like, I don't have any pain. Nothing can hurt me. I don't have any pain. That was a story I would tell myself to keep going, to keep building momentum. Like I said, that worked until it didn't. And I was just trying to figure out, like, what does he mean by that? And immediately a thought came to my mind around this idea of self-mastery, this idea of being a man who can really provide financially, security, emotionally for his family, for his wife, and to really truly be an influence and a leader in the world because of his level of self-mastery. That's the thing I was most passionate about. It wasn't part of my business at the time, but it was the thing I was most passionate about. But as I dove deeper into the reasons why that was coming to my mind, was because of my relationship with my father. And when I realized that my greatest purpose was to help men on their journey of self-mastery because of my experience that I had with my father. I'm very grateful for my father. I love my father. I've done a lot of healing around that area of my life. He showed me exactly what not to do in a lot of cases. And along the way, that hurt me because I wanted him to be a certain way. I wanted to have that guidance in my life. And for a long time, I held a lot of resentment towards him, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, which kept me in a low state. But like I said, he taught me exactly the lessons I needed to learn to put me on my own path. Life is interesting that way. I could easily, and did for a long time, fall into the victim mentality of, poor me. I am this way because. But I believe that everything in our life is serving a purpose. Everything is perfectly orchestrated for us to experience life the way that we're meant to experience it, learn the lessons we're meant to learn, and to discover our truth and our purpose and our meaning behind life. Because outside of personal development and outside of, living and surviving and things like that, I believe that when you have a greater sense of pull and purpose in your life, that's when life starts to change around you and everything around you is an input for that purpose that you have. And that can take time. I wouldn't rush to find your purpose personally, because you can spend a lot of time trying to figure it out when really it will come to you when it will come to you. But it's up to you to intentionally live your life to be able to pursue what you're meant to pursue, or what you feel like you're meant to pursue in the now moment, so you can discover what that is, and it will eventually lead you to that point where you discover what that is. Now, thankfully, I was able to discover that early enough in my life. So as I sat there and I realized this, I remember crying. I remember shedding a tear, and a lot of tears. And I kind of released a lot of energy around that relationship I had, that obviously at that time had a lot of pain around. Quite a dense thing to really feel in that moment, because it was that moment where I realized that, first of all, I was on the wrong path. I was running a marketing agency at the time, and I was on a path that wasn't my path. It was something I was just doing. It helped me create freedom, helped me learn about skills and money and all these different things. It served its purpose. But at that pivotal moment, I realized that I had to make a choice to pursue the business I had already been doing, to keep growing that, and to put everything I just realized to the side and keep growing this thing, or drop it all and go in this new direction. And that was an interesting place to be, because obviously everything I'd been doing until that point had provided me with security, had provided me with finances, had provided me with clients and a certain way of living. I didn't want to let that go. But this pull was too much. And I remembered that a number of years ago, as I was just getting started in everything, like in just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I remember coming across a man called Bob Proctor, who was massive in the personal development space. And there was one thing that he said on one of his online seminars, where the opportunity to become a consultant for Proctor Gallagher Institute was on the table. And my heart wanted it. And it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to become part of that company. It was more the opportunity to help people in that area. I didn't even understand that area that much. But I knew that it was something I was drawn towards. But at that time, it was many years ago, I didn't feel like I was capable of helping people in those areas, because I hadn't lived much. I had just come from a life of being in college and drinking alcohol and smoking weed and doing all of those things, and I was in the process of changing my life, and I felt drawn to help people in that area, but I didn't feel worthy. I felt like I had to go on the path of mastery, had to go on the path of doing this agency thing and creating some freedom and finances in my life to be able to solve those security needs before I could move on to something bigger. But at this moment that I just talked you through, that was the moment where I became so clear of what I was meant to do. Now, that may change and evolve over time, but I truly believe that I'll be doing this for the rest of my life, because since then I've been a coach to over 200 sales professionals, entrepreneurs, just in the last number of months alone. Coached many clients, many calls, many transformations, and it's been such an incredible journey, because that moment never went away. It always stuck in my mind, like that moment where I had the tears rolling down my eyes when I realized what I was meant to do. But the interesting thing about this was because it was based and coming from a place of pain. That's the most fascinating thing. And I think in life, pain is subjective, and pain is good because it teaches us something. Because as human beings, I do believe that we're here to experience life fully. And to really experience life fully, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some heartbreak. There's going to be some moments where it doesn't make sense. Because those moments where you feel that way bring a sense of clarity afterwards. It brings a sense of inspiration. It allows us to experience what the dark is like so that we can understand what it means to be in the light. And I think we need that. So this journey through life is an interesting one, But what I would invite you to do, just based on this conversation overall, is that don't rush it. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. There's something that you feel pulled towards. Keep running with that. Master it. Own it. It's yours. But keep at the back of your mind these deeper questions of, what do I feel like I'm meant to do here? What do I need to maybe give myself permission to do here? Is what I'm doing right now something I'm just doing to pass the time? Or is there something deeper out there that I know I can do well, that I know is scaring me, that I'm afraid to do, but it's something I feel pulled towards? That's usually the best course of action, because I felt terrified in that moment of realization. Because right there and then, everything I was doing with the current business that I had, running a marketing agency, didn't exactly correlate with the new business that I had in mind, which was coaching people, which was more intimate, was more one-to-one, different things. I mean, we talk about marketing with certain clients and we talk about sales with certain clients as well, but it's not the primary focus. So things had to be rebuilt from the ground up. And that building process was, it was tough. And it continued to build, but it doesn't feel like work anymore. Nothing does. It feels like it's deeper. It feels like it's meant to be this way. And I love helping people in these areas. And I share this with you so that you can see that there's no rush with any of these things. And you'll discover what that thing is for you when you're meant to discover it through the life experiences that you have. But you must move in a direction for that to happen. Because sitting around and waiting for it to happen doesn't bring it into the reality. It doesn't allow it to come to you, because by doing something that you feel drawn towards, that's a little bit scary, it's a little bit beyond what you're used to, that's the thing that's going to pull you towards what you're meant to do. And as long as you keep living like that, day by day, week by week, month by month, you will discover what that is for you. I don't believe that there's a methodology around finding your purpose. I believe that there is things that we're drawn to, and we should always be aware of those things. There's things that we're interested in. We should always be aware of those things. And all of those things will encompass into what you feel like you're meant to do here. And then it's about really making that unique in whatever way you feel like you want to make it unique, based on your life experience, your way of thinking, your way of operating. So it always comes back to really knowing yourself, because that journey for me after that realization was getting to know myself more. I felt like I knew myself. I'd been doing a lot of personal development. I'd invested in mentors and coaches, but those moments were the deepest moments, because I had to go deep within myself. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? And who am I? Who really am I? They're fascinating questions to ask. But when we ask them, we get answers. Maybe not right away, but we get answers. So I share this with you in the hopes that it gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of clarity around the fact that you don't need to have everything figured out, but you also do need to take the actions towards the things that are pulling you right now. Because that signal, that pull that you feel is not made up. It's not something to ignore. It's something to always lean into. Because where does that even come from? That's an interesting question. I believe it comes from a path that is ahead of us, that we're being called to pursue, because I believe that we all have a given purpose in this world. We're not just here to live, to breathe, to eat, to sleep, and to die. You know, there's some people out there who just do incredibly well at the thing that they're doing because they're meant to do it. They love it, they enjoy it, it's not work to them. I feel like I'm really stepping into that place. And I know many other people who are in that place as well. And you could say that that's their given purpose. You could say that that's just something they're really good at. Obviously, you have to cultivate the skills. It's not that you're just naturally good at things and then you never work on it. I'm constantly working on my craft. Constantly. But it's not work. But it requires deep focus, right? And it requires time and energy to dedicate towards it. So I guess you could call that work. But I don't feel like it's work. That's more what I'm trying to say. And no matter what you're doing right now, just know that you're meant to be exactly where you're meant to be. And that's something I'm always coming back to. Everything that you're experiencing right now, you're meant to experience. Everything that you're dealing with right now, whether that's a really hard time in your life or something that's really great happening in your life, there's a lesson to be learned that if you learn it and you bring conscious awareness to learning that lesson, you can really, really empower yourself to embrace it. Because we keep facing the same problems over and over and over and over again because we have not learned the lesson that is available to us. Because it's much easier to not learn it. It's much easier to brush it off and to say the world's against me and I'm a victim and I'm all these things and I have all these stories that I keep telling myself. It's easier to do that. Much, much easier to do that. It's what most of the world does. But not you. Not what we talk about on this channel. Everything in life is a growth opportunity. And the reason that I say that and continuously say it is because when you approach life as everything being a growth opportunity, there's no losses. Only lessons. And the thing that really helped me navigate this over the last number of years, and it's something I'm going to speak more about and to develop even deeper, is embodying this new identity of the modern master. The modern master is an identity I didn't really have a name for a number of years ago, but I had to design something to give me direction. Otherwise, I had no way of looking at how I was going to make decisions at every moment. Because we always have distractions, we always have simple pleasures, we always have things that are going to pull us away from the person that we know we're meant to be. So I had to design an identity that allowed me to bring conscious awareness to this identity in every moment, in every decision, in every thought, in every behavior, in every action. To double check to see, am I in alignment with the modern master? Because the modern master is what I want to step into. It's what we use with clients as well. It's this template, almost, you could call it. A way of thinking, a belief set, a frequency, a way of being. And the clearer we get and the clearer we understand and we ingrain this new identity into our lives, the more we create our reality the way we want to create it, rather than the reality we're creating for ourselves in this current moment in time right now. Now, life may be really good for you right now, but it could be better. Or maybe it's perfect the way it is. That's totally up to you. Or maybe life is really difficult right now and you know it could be better. And maybe you've been working really hard, like I was. And maybe you've been really feeling challenged in your level of mastery, in your level of mindset, and you're just looking at different ways to be able to navigate this world in a way that is congruent with who you want to be, in a way that's simple. So I've written down here a couple of ways that I interpret the modern master. And with all of this, I call it the way of the modern master. When we understand the way of the modern master, life becomes, I'm not going to say easy, but it becomes more simple. We don't want things to be easy, but we do want things to be simple. The modern master is an identity. It's a mindset. It's a frequency. It's a way of being that allows you to bring the reality you want to create into your life more effortlessly. And it's mainly based around sovereignty. Like the first thing I wrote down here on this journal is sovereignty, freedom, autonomy, whatever you want to call it. But not freedom in the way where you think you go to a holiday destination and you sit on the beach for the rest of your life. Sovereignty in terms of how you feel on a day-to-day basis. Because everything in life that we are trying to create or we're trying to build, we're searching for a feeling. We want to make more money and we want to build a business and we want to, make sales because we want the feeling of being abundant. We want the feeling of being secure. We want the feeling of knowing that I can afford things and I don't have to worry about those things. And I can do what I want and I have control over that. It's that feeling within. That's what we're searching for. But the thing is, we can feel that feeling first. Now, of course, the right actions, the right behaviors, the right mindset allows that to actually come into fruition in the external world. But we have the capacity to be that in the now moment. We can create that sovereignty from within. Think about it for a second. What do we crave as men? We crave the feeling of feeling free. We want freedom. That's why we travel. That's why we create businesses. That's why we do everything. We want freedom. We don't want to be tied down by bosses. We don't want to be controlled by anybody. We don't want to work with people we don't want to work with. We don't want to be on offers that we don't want to be on. We don't want to do anything that we don't want to do. We want to be free to choose. So that's number one, sovereignty. So how can I make decisions every moment that is going to increase my levels of freedom, internally and externally? But that freedom comes from mastery, because you can be either controlled externally by programming in your mind, or that mind can work for you, because everything is perception, everything is beliefs. I recently did a workshop with over 30 entrepreneurs on this topic specifically. If you want to check that out, that'll be linked around this video. But sovereignty comes from the mastery of self. Because when you master your mind, your emotions, you can master any scenario. You're not affected by it. And when you're not affected by it, you can actively make decisions and take actions that are going to be in alignment with the modern master. That's going to allow you to create the reality in every scenario that you desire. The next thing I have here is not limited by the mind, beliefs, or environment, because beliefs are formed from society, our environment, our parents, people around us, all these things. Our environment, where we live, where we find ourselves in, can either limit us or it can drive us forward. And when I say not limited by the mind, it means that most people are controlled by their mind because they don't know how to control it. They haven't mastered it. Now, of course, it's an ever-evolving journey. I'm on the journey just as much as anybody else. But mastering your mind, your emotions, your frequency, your state of being, it allows you to show up in the world from a place of groundedness, from centeredness, where you can just be and act with intention and grow and expand and do the things you want to do and have the success that you want to have. Because all of that level of mastery leads to certain actions and behaviors which create results. So for me, coming back to the story earlier on, I was taking action. I was working long hours. But they were actions that were coming from a place of fear. They were actions that were coming from a place of validation, needing validation. So that action and that intention, that energy I was putting out into the world, yeah, I might have been taking a lot of action, but it was coming from a dark place. It was coming from a place of struggle, and people could feel that. And when you're trying to attract clients, or you're trying to grow a business, or you're trying to attract opportunities, coming from that energy is repulsive. Nobody wants to be around that. This is why the best coaches, the best mentors, the best speakers, the people in the world who do these types of things, they're energetically attractive. That's why people want to be around them. Not because they know a bunch of strategies and tactics. Sure, that's part of it. They're energetically attractive. Subconsciously, we know as human beings when we are around someone who has a high state of consciousness, a high level of awareness, and their energy is it's really fun to be around, it's positive, it's uplifting, it's abundant, We want to be around that. So if we're trying to attract opportunities and clients and all these things that we want to have in our life, it would make sense for us to become the same. But how do you do that? You go on the journey of self-mastery. You become the modern master. One thing I have here which I want to share is he contemplates the sides of opportunities or people are worthy of him. Not from a place of ego though, from a place of confidence, from a place of knowing his worth and knowing his value. Again, how can we make every decision at every moment come back to, is this opportunity worthy of me? Is this person worthy of me? Because I know my intention, I know my work ethic, I know what I'm doing to improve myself. Therefore, is this opportunity worthy of me? Is this person, is this place worthy of me? That's how the modern master thinks, because he knows who he is. So again, bringing this back into daily life. How can I use that understanding of the modern master to bring this into my decisions on a day-to-day basis? Not, am I good enough for this opportunity? Am I good enough for this person? That's a place of disempowerment. From a place of not knowing your worth, not knowing your value. Now, if you're someone who's building your value, which I know you are, and building your worth within the external world, you got to accept that within first and cultivate that within you so that you know it and you're coming from a place of confidence with it as well. Next thing is courageous. Courage is just an ever-evolving theme across this channel. It's right there in the middle, in the levels of consciousness. It's the thing that separates fear, guilt, shame, anxiety, doubt, all these places. That's a survival paradigm. The line to cross into joy, tranquility, peace, love, neutrality is courage. The modern master is courageous in every moment, at every second. How can I be more courageous in my day? How can I be more courageous with my decisions? This is a thought process just to bring yourself through as much as possible. The same with just a master of reality, master of perception. Like I mentioned, I did a talk recently around these areas. Perception, how we view ourselves, how we view the world, it's all subjective. We're creating our reality at all times, but we can mold our beliefs and our perception to change the reality we find ourselves in. It's a game. It's like a virtual reality game. I'll go deeper in that talk, but we'll touch on it briefly here. The next thing is intentional work and enjoying life. This is really coming back to being a disciplined flow master, right? There's definitely a better word for that, but going with the flow, because going with the flow of life is happening all the time. So how can we ride that wave and go with it? Like Bruce Lee said, be like water. Be like water is being with the flow, but also cultivating the discipline to guide that flow so that it doesn't just spread all over the place, right? It's that fine balance of being disciplined and also allowing flow into your life. So what do I mean by that? Well, it means that having some structure in your days to a degree that serves you, knocking out the most important things and being disciplined with the things and the actions that you know you need to take. But then also releasing any attachment to needing to work 12 to 15 hours a day just for the sake of working, because that is what creates results, for example. Because it's not necessarily true. There's certain actions that create results for sure. But how can you come from an energetic state of being that is just at a higher frequency so that those actions are fueled with your intention? So you're balancing this dance of discipline and focus with going with the flow. And I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful mixture if you can master those two. But it's a dance constantly, back and forth. And another thing I've written here is a warrior in the modern age. So a warrior in the modern age means that really we don't have much to worry about these days as men when it comes to our life. I was watching Braveheart last night, and very similar movies like Gladiator, very similar movies like Troy, and people would literally come in, like the English would come in to Scotland and they would just come in on horses, take their women, and then they would go to war and they would kill a bunch of guys, and it was just this massacre. Interesting time to be alive. Now we don't have to worry about that anymore, but how can we bring that same warrior energy into the modern age, so that like our businesses or the work that we're doing or the goals we've set for ourselves, that is our war zone, and we're coming from this place of courage. The modern master approaches life as if he is going to war. He executes on his goals as if he is going to war. So then he thinks about how he's going to navigate this, how he's going to navigate his internal state of being within the war zone, and then showing up and taking action like a warrior. This is how I like to think about these things, because the more we think about that, the more intensity we bring to life in general, because it can get very dull and mundane very fast. We're here, we're on our computer, we're going out, it's sunny, we, go to the gym. Like it can be very, very dull if you let it. But I'd like to bring a sense of just like it's a movie almost. Like it's a movie, you're in the game, you're in the war, and your opponents are the past version of yourself. Your opponents are comfort. Your opponents are programming. Your opponents are conformity and being comfortable. So that's how I like to see it. It's a different way of looking at it, but it gives fuel and reason behind what you're doing. Because look at these guys who used to go to war. Like their why was so strong. They were going after, their freedom, going after their woman who may have been captured. They're protecting their family. Like their reasoning was so strong. They don't procrastinate. Because there was no, what are you going to do? Your wife gets taken and you're going to procrastinate on getting her back? Like you either go or you don't. It's like there's no in between. So it's like, how can we bring that same sense of courage into everything in life? That's really what the modern master does. That's how I think about it. It's the same with things like opportunities or client attraction. You become, like we said, energetically attractive. Flow and discipline, I've written here. We already talked about that. Present and detached is another one, which is fully present in the now moment. Like I'm right here, right now with you, fully present in this conversation we're having. And if I was distracted or if I was thinking about something else, you'd be able to feel that. You'd be able to know that. And you may have watched many videos where someone is not fully present in the video and you have all these crazy edits going on and you feel a sense of like a lack of connection with the person because they're creating the video and then they have all this post-production stuff on it. I'm right here, right now with you in this moment, sharing this with you. How can we bring that sense of presence to everything that we do? Everything. And then being detached as well as just understanding that your presence is valuable and that being detached is really when you cultivate that level of mastery within yourself, that you know your worth. You have unconditional love for yourself because attachment comes from conditional love. If I do this thing, then I am valuable. If I do this thing, then I can love myself. If I do this thing, people will validate me. It's all conditional, which leads to attachment, because if we say that I am only valuable if I achieve X goal, therefore the goal is now on a pedestal because I'm attached to it, because my love that I have for myself is attached to this goal. I will only be satisfied with myself when. That's where the danger lies. So when we talk about detaching, we talk about unconditionally loving yourself and then taking action from that place. It's not that we just unconditionally love ourselves and then we just do nothing with that and we don't take any action. It's two sides, always. But there's a different energy. You can go to the gym because you hate yourself, or you can go to the gym because you actually love yourself and you want to grow your body because you know you have more potential in you. They're two completely different scenarios. Now, the actions may be the same, which means that, two people can get the same results. But which one is going to be a modern master? Which one is actually going to be the one who's fulfilled and happy? Because the guy who goes to the gym because he hates himself and gets bigger is never going to be satisfied. because there's something deeper there, compared to the guy who goes because he loves himself. He wants to improve. He wants to get his physique. He wants to work on his aesthetics. He wants to work on his agility, his ability to fight, like all of these different things. Two different energies. The modern master unconditionally loves himself and others around him, which means that you put out that frequency into the world. Again, attracting more opportunities, more clients, more people around you who are going to give you the resources to be able to continue to do what you're meant to do, because you're coming from a higher state. That's really what I wanted to share. And it's interesting because, like I said, there's no rush with discovering your purpose, discovering that thing for you. But if you can hold this identity in your mind, the modern master will guide you, because that is what we're aspiring to become on this channel. When I work with clients, myself personally, becoming a modern master, the master in the modern age. This is how we do it. We keep this at the back of our mind. This is who we are becoming. And when we know who we're becoming, it's a filter for our decisions, our actions, our thought processes, who we interact with, our environment, what we choose to do, what we choose not to do. It becomes the filter, because when you filter things out, that's when you can really make decisions that are going to serve you. Because otherwise we have too many options. We remove bad habits, we remove self-sabotage, we remove things that are not going to serve us. And instead, we bring this sense of identity, this modern master, into reality by becoming it in the now moment. That's where the power is. That's where the strength is, coming from that place of courage. Now, of course, if you want to go deeper on becoming a modern master and really going deep into who you are, and working on your level of mastery within yourself, mastering your mind, your emotions, your way of being, so that life becomes that little bit more effortless. I would invite you to work with me one-on-one, or check out some of the other programs we have available. I would love to see you part of our community. And if it's a fit, if there's alignment there, we can go ahead and we can make it happen. You can check out some of the links in the description to check that out. But overall, I want you to leave this video with a sense of intention, that you're not going to go off and watch a million other videos and get into that state where you're kind of looking for answers. The answers are within you. You have them already. It's been a pleasure to share this with you. Hopefully this is helpful. I would love to hear your ideas, any comments that you have, drop them below. I read all the comments. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like this video. Thanks for being here. This has been Jordan, sending you love, and I will see you in the next video.